Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, we're glad to have you back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We're glad you're here. So, our podcast is for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. In today's episode, we are talking about the quote, "If you think someone has ruined your life, you're right." And it's you. So, we came across this quote and it really feeds into our thought process and the thought process we're trying to help everybody develop in their life. This is a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche. He was a German philosopher and a critic who lived in the last half of the 19th centuries. So we've discussed it on the channel before, but the victim mentality gets you nowhere. It sets you up for a life of disappointment, bitterness, and regret. So instead of blaming others, we need to learn to take control of our lives. We need to make the most of what we have, start from where we are, and focus on personal responsibility. So, to that end, we went through and found some folks that are very inspiring. At least to us, they were inspiring. And I think if you can look at this list of 7 people and the trials that they've been through and what they've done after they've experienced these trials, and you can still be a victim or have the victim mentality, my hat's off to you because you're really committed to the victim mentality. The net of it is we're not all born into the same circumstances in life. We don't all have the same things happen to us in life, but we all have the choice to control how we react to the things that happen in our life and what we do about it after the fact. So, with that said, let's just look at these 7 people and you can think about this podcast or any one of these people and what they went through the next time you're feeling sorry for yourself because whatever happened in your life happened in your life. And look, guys, I get it. Life's tough. It's not always fun. It's not always great. I've had rough days. I've had days where I felt sorry for myself. I've had days where I blamed other people. I've had days where I've done all the things I tell everybody not to do. I think I'm much better at it now than I've ever been. And I think I'm better at it than most people in society, but I have a long way to go. I think all of us have a long way to go. And the minute you think you're perfect, the minute you think you've got it mastered, I think you're in deep trouble. Like, I think you got problems coming real quick. But one of the things I do is think, hey, there's lots of people out there who got it worse than me. And I'm going to go through this list of 7 people and kind of share their experiences with you and what they did to kind of illustrate the point that it could always be worse. And people who have dealt with harder things than whatever you're dealing with have made really great lives for themselves, and you can too. You just have to choose to do it. So, with that said, let's get into our seven folks here. The first one is Nick Vujicic. So Nick was born without arms or legs. None. Didn't have them. Born without arms or legs. So he grows up. He got bullied. He was discriminated against. Felt bad. He felt hopeless. But he didn't give in. He didn't give up. He wanted to live a full life and refused to allow the physical disadvantages that he was born with to prevent him from doing that. So he worked tirelessly to overcome his physical limitations. He learned to swim. Remember, this guy has no arms, no legs. He learned to swim. He learned to surf. He even plays golf with his feet. So today, he's a motivational speaker. He spreads the message of hope and resilience, like we're talking about here on our podcast. He's written several books and has been featured in numerous documentaries and TV shows. So, next time you're feeling bad for yourself, this guy was born with no arms and no legs. He's built a great career for himself. He's learned to swim. He's learned to surf. He plays golf. Like, what's your excuse? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. You shouldn't feel sorry for yourself either. So, on to the next person. This is Malala Yousafzai, who I think most of you probably recognize from just the name Malala. So she was born in Pakistan and was an advocate for women's rights. In 2012, when she was 15, she was shot in the head by the Taliban on her way to school. Somehow, she survived the shooting. She had a long road back from where she was because obviously she shot, like it impacted her brain, and she had to do a ton of therapy, both physical and mental therapy, to get back to where she wanted to be. So, did she just do that and then go quietly along her way? No, she did not. She was not scared by being shot in the head. She was not intimidated by being shot in the head. She continued to speak out on behalf of girls' education, and she's a very powerful voice for female empowerment, especially in Muslim countries. So, because of her work, she was actually awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014, becoming the youngest ever Nobel laureate. She's founded the Malala Fund, which promotes girls' education worldwide and is a symbol of hope and inspiration to millions of people, men and women, around the world. So, the next time you're feeling sorry for yourself, have you been shot in the head? I think you got to check yourself a little bit. I think you've got to think about your mindset. You got to think, hey, there's lots of people out there that have it worse than me, who've experienced worse than I have. This young girl at 15 was shot in the head, and look at what she's done with her life since. It's really, really impressive. It can be a lesson for all of us. It can be a trigger for all of us to keep our minds in the right mindset and fight to get back into that mindset when we inevitably slip out of it. Next on our list, Stephen Hawking. So we all know Stephen Hawking is a brilliant physicist, cosmologist, and author of books, tons of books. So at 21, so he was born in England in 1942, and at 21 years old, he was diagnosed with a debilitating motor neuron disease. It left him completely paralyzed, almost completely paralyzed. In a wheelchair, couldn't speak without a computer synthesizer. So did this stop him? No, he's 21. Remember, he's 21 years old when he's diagnosed with this, and it very quickly deteriorates to the point that he's in a wheelchair and he can't speak without using, I think if I remember right, he used his eyes to look at letters on a keyboard to say out loud what he wanted to say out loud. So, did that stop him? Absolutely not. It didn't stop. Despite those huge challenges, he became an influential scientist and thought leader. He held the post of Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at the University of Cambridge, one of the leading universities in the world. That post was previously held by Sir Isaac Newton, among others. So he has groundbreaking theses in cosmology, really around black holes and the nature of time itself. So he earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009. He's written tons of books. A Brief History of Time is one that sold millions of copies. He's inspired countless people, and he was confined to a wheelchair and couldn't speak in his early 20s. So he recently passed away in the last several years. But I mean, this is a guy that made the most of his life despite huge odds against him. Think about that the next time you're feeling sorry for yourself. Bethany Hamilton. So Bethany was born in Hawaii in 1990, and she was a really good surfer. So at 13, she was out surfing, and she was attacked by a 14-foot tiger shark that bit off her left arm. So, think this stopped her? Of course it didn't stop her. Within weeks of the attack, she was back in the water, learning to surf with just one arm. Now, I'm not a surfer, but I got to assume that your arm's used for balance and other things. And she's minus one arm because it was bitten off by a shark. Not only did she not let it stop her, she got back in the water and came on and went on to be successful in her sport. So she actually now has become an advocate for shark conservation because there's millions of sharks that are killed every year. And so her book is called Soul Surfer, and there's an autobiography. I think there's a movie out called Soul Surfer as well that kind of chronicles her story. So, like, next time you're feeling bad for yourself, were you attacked by a shark? Did it bite your arm off? Then quit feeling sorry for yourself and get after it. Next up, J.K. Rowling. So J.K. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter books. So she's a celebrated writer. She's from England, and she's been wildly successful. With that said, she has struggled with depression, contemplated suicide. When she wrote Harry Potter, she was divorced and was penniless, was literally broke. And tons of, like, multiple, I think it was over 10 publishers read Harry Potter and said, no, that's not, that, no one's ever going to buy that. Get out of our office. So despite all those challenges, she sold over 500 million copies worldwide and has become a billionaire. And did she rest on her laurels and say, nope, that's good enough for me? Nope. She's now an advocate for social justice and equality, largely around women. In fact, she takes a lot of heat from the LGBTQ community for advocating for women's rights when they're impeded on by the transgender community. So, again, this is a person that could have given up. She did not have a lot going for her. She was depressed, had suicidal thoughts, was divorced, had no money. She fought her way through to where she's at today. So you don't have it so bad. Next up on our list, Wilma Rudolph. Wilma Rudolph was an extraordinary athlete, despite being born prematurely in 1940. She had numerous health problems as a child. She had pneumonia, she had scarlet fever, and she even had polio, which left one of her legs partially paralyzed as a kid. Despite all this, she went to a physical therapist and started working with a physical therapist to overcome her challenges. Turns out she had a talent for running and actually represented the United States in the 1960 Olympics in Rome. She won 3 gold medals, including the gold medal in the 100-meter dash. So she could have quit. She could have said, oh, I guess I'm disabled. I'm not going to be able to participate in athletics. I'm not going to be able to compete the way that I want to compete. False. She fought her way through, overcame huge odds, and refused to quit. Refused to quit until she was successful. So next time you're feeling sorry for yourself, did you have scarlet fever? Did you have polio that left one of your legs partially paralyzed? Then quit whining and get after it. Last person on our list, Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela was born in South Africa in 1918, and South Africa was ruled under a system called apartheid, where a minority ethnic group rules a majority ethnic group. So whites in South Africa ruled over blacks for a long period of time. He was a vocal critic against apartheid, and for his advocacy, he was arrested and imprisoned for 27 years, starting in 1962. So even in prison, even after his punishment, even after they tried to silence him, he continued to speak out. He continued to advocate for fairness and equality. And when he was released from prison, he was a huge symbol of the anti-apartheid movement. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. And then he was elected president of the country in 1994. So, have you been in prison for 27 years for speaking out for something that's clearly right, for something that, against something that is clearly wrong, like apartheid, and clearly right in terms of equality and justice for everybody in South Africa and around the world? Nelson Mandela didn't quit. He fought his way through. You can too. So, going back to our original quote, if you think somebody has ruined your life, you're 100% correct. And you need to go look in a mirror, because you are the person that has ruined your life. You have control over your emotions. You have control over your actions. You have control over speaking your mind. You have control over advocating for and fighting for the things that are important to you, the things that you believe in. And if you blame things or blame circumstances for your lack of ability to get those things done, think about these 7 people. Think about the odds they overcame. Think about what they did to get to where they got to in their lives. And I don't think you have much of an argument to feel sorry for yourself. So that's our episode for today, guys. Hope you found it useful. Every day, James puts it up over here. Don't forget to go to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All of our podcast episodes are available on there. We publish a newsletter every weekday that you can subscribe to on there. And we've got links to all of our social media posts and content on there as well. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. Really appreciate you guys coming back. Hope you found this episode useful. Everybody have a great week, and we're going to see you next time.